Our topic this evening is sadhus and sages. A sadhu is, in Sanskrit, is a saintly person, a person who's concerned with sat, with that which is permanent. Sadhu means straight, straight, on point, we would say. No, a sadhu is a saintly person. And surgeons you know about. But a sadhu is like a surgeon in that he sometimes cuts. It's not that a saintly person is just give blessings, Ayushman Bhava. May you live a long time. May good fortune come your way. May you have a lucky week. That's not really what a sadhu does. A sadhu is meant for giving spiritual understanding. A sadhu means he must have received spiritual instruction, spiritual knowledge from his teacher, from the Vedic literature. And what he does is transmit that knowledge to others. So sometimes he may speak in ways that are encouraging and appreciative. Oh, you're doing so nicely. But sometimes he may be very strong. And let's see, I had a note about that. As my own spiritual master once said, strong words are sometimes needed to awaken a sleeping man. The duty of the spiritual master, the spiritual teacher, is to awaken the person sleeping in illusions. And for this, the master may employ sharp words. The sharp words of the master are like the knife of the surgeon, which cuts for the person's cure. In the Vedic literature, in the Vedic tradition, the spiritual master plays an essential role. It's said that no one can finally attain perfection without guidance by a spiritual master. Acharyavan Purusho Veda, a person who has a bona fide spiritual master, is supposed to know everything. Not that he's Krishna, not that he knows everything that way, but he's fully informed, he knows the science of Krishna. So if we want to know the science of Krishna, we need a teacher. Spiritual master means spiritual teacher. And to understand the science, we're advised that we should approach a spiritual teacher, a spiritual master. It's a teacher, yes, but to really, how do we approach a teacher? One approaches in a humble way, with humility, not challenging. Yeah, tell me your philosophy in 10 words or less. One approaches in a humble way. Sanatana Goswami, a great saint, approached Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sanatana Goswami was a prominent government minister. He knew several languages. He was born in a high family. He was very qualified. But he said to Lord Chaitanya that local people call me Panditji. Panditji means a learned person, a Brahmin. Local people call me Panditji. He said, but I'm such a Panditji that I don't know who I am. They think that I'm learned. I think that I'm learned, but I'm so learned that I don't know who I am or what the purpose of my life is. So, Keami, Keneamai, Charatapatroy. Who am I, and why are am I suffering? I'm suffering from forces of nature. It's too hot, it's too cold, there's too much rain, there's too much drought. I'm suffering from other living beings, from mosquitoes, from viruses, from fellow human beings. They're causing me trouble. And I'm suffering because of my own body and my own mind. Physical suffering and mental torture. Oh, why am I under... And this is the world. It's anyone who's... What's the word? Sober was Prabhupada's word, who's not giddy, who's thoughtful, will admit, yes, I'm suffering. Even if I have a lot of money, even if I have the spouse of my dreams, even if I've got a nice house and a great job or this, that, I'm suffering. Yeah. Either all three of these miseries or two of them, at least one, has to be giving me trouble all the time. That's life in this world. Why am I suffering? And who am I? These were his initial questions. He wasn't just asking, how can I... How can I get something that will make me happy for a day? Why am I suffering? And ultimately, why am I in this material world? How can I get out? What is the real destination? All of these. What's the goal of my life? These are the real questions for a human being. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it said that Paravaras tavada bodha jato yavana jigyasata atma tattva. We're all born in ignorance. And we remain in ignorance for a long time. We don't really know who we are, why we're here, how to be happy. We're trying to figure it out. We're attempting this or that. But it's a difficult project. So the Bhagavatam says if we don't try to understand, if we don't inquire about who we are, why we're here, then our life is a failure. We've gotten this rare human form, and we're wasting the opportunity. We're just not using it for anything better than the animals are using their bodies. They're using their lives for eating, for sleeping, for having sex, for protecting themselves. And if we don't do more than that, or we just refine it, then we're wasting our lives. We may be eating in a high-class restaurant, the dog may be eating on the street, but eating is eating. Sleeping is sleeping. Sex is sex. So the human life is meant for this purpose. Serious business. So the spiritual master is a person who knows the science of spiritual realization and can help one get free from material existence. So the spiritual master helps us sometimes by encouraging words and sometimes by speaking sharply. That's his prerogative and his duty. Just like a father, doesn't always say, "Oh, you're such a nice child. You're always, you rascal, what are you doing?" For the benefit of the child. So the spiritual master also uses strong words sometimes to awaken the sleeping soul. I have an example. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. How strong words are sometimes used. Srimad Bhagavatam tells of the last days of the blind King Dhritarashtra. This was the king who had supported his evil son, Duryodhana, in conspiring to usurp the kingdom of Hastinapur from the legitimate heirs to the throne, the sons of Pandu, Dhritarashtra's brother. The conflict between the sons of Pandu and those of Dhritarashtra culminated in the Battle of Kurukshetra, in which all of Dhritarashtra's sons were killed. After the battle, the aged Dhritarashtra, ruined and defeated, continued to live in the palace, where he was graciously honored and maintained by those against whom he'd conspired. Finally, however, after many years, the palace was visited by Dhritarashtra's younger brother, the sagacious Vidura, who had come to free Dhritarashtra from his illusions and awaken him to spiritual realization. Vidura told him, "Just see how fear has overtaken you. Death, frightful death, cannot be remedied by any person in this material world. My Lord, it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal time that has approached us all. Whoever is under the sway of eternal time must surrender his most dear life. And what to speak of other things, such as wealth, honor, children, land, home. Your father, brother, well-wishers, and sons are all dead. You yourself have expended most of your life. Your body is now overcome by invalidity, and you're living in the home of another. You are blind from your very birth, and lately you've become hard of hearing. Your memory is short, your intelligence disturbed, your teeth are loose, your liver's gone bad, and you're coughing up mucus. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life." Strong words are needed to awaken a sleeping man. Dhritarashtra, Vidura said, was living just like a household dog, eating scraps of food thrown to him by Bhima, the nephew who had slain Dhritarashtra's favorite sons. Vidura told Dhritarashtra, "There's no need to live a degraded life by subsisting on the charity of those whom you tried to kill by arson, by poisoning, whose wife you insulted, whose kingdom and wealth you tried to usurp. Death was surely approaching, and Dhritarashtra, Vidura said, must free himself from the desire to go on living at any cost and must turn towards spiritual realization before death arrived. Vidura said, despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and wear out like an old garment. Oh, he's not speaking of a nice, pleasant message full of hope and joy. You're a fool. You're wasting your life. You're living like a dog. You're just trying to be well situated in illusions. And Vidura spoke strongly, but not out of hatred or any negative feeling, but out of kindness, out of genuine concern for his elder brother. Time is catching up with us. No one can fight against time. Now we may be young, but soon we'll be old, and after being old, we'll be dead. So, therefore, the Bhagavatam says that urgently we should take up spiritual realization. Urgently. Before time runs out. And it runs out quickly. We spend our youth having a good time. We spend our years after that working and maintaining our families and working some more. And we spend our old age rocking, I remember back in the old days. And then it's over. So the sages advise now. The time for spiritual realization is now. It's urgent business. Time is slipping away, slipping away, slipping away. And we can't buy back even a moment of it. So the message of Krishna consciousness also is not light stuff. It's not, you see those books with like rainbows and soft, fluffy colors and, be the real you and, cotton candy. This is not cotton candy. This is the real stuff. It is joyful. It is, yes, full of transcendental pleasure, but it's serious business. If we want to attain freedom from material existence, if we want to revive our own real identity, it's serious business. It's not going to happen in an hour of chanting Om or something. It needs real knowledge. It needs competent guidance. And it needs therefore our serious commitment. At least first, serious interest. Not that we just, okay, commit yourself. What am I committing myself? No, just commit yourself. No, first, interest. What is this? Why does it matter? Why should I care? And then once we understand the subject of the importance of the subject, and we understand that we've come to a place where there's genuine understanding, then we should commit ourselves to the work of making further spiritual progress. And this is my real business. What am I doing with my life? What's so important? What's so crucial? I don't mean to say, okay, just dump it all, quit your job, go off to the forest, be a yogi. But what is my most important purpose? What's my highest priority in life? Yes, I need to eat, I need to work, but what is my real goal? Why am I here? What am I hoping to achieve? So these are all topics raised on the Vedic path, and it's for this ultimate purpose that we have these books, that we have this chanting of Hare Krishna, and that we have the food that we offer to Krishna. Everything is meant to bring us as quickly and easily as possible to advancement, the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness. And I'm going to stop there and see what kind of questions you might have. Was there a question in the back? No. Yes.
Maharaj, what is the faith of someone who doesn't take up spiritual life, even though he knows that it's the truth?
What's the fate of a person who doesn't take up spiritual life, even though he knows it's the truth? Oh, I left I left those little things in the yogi things. Fate is that he comes back to the material world. It's not that automatically we'll just attain liberation by good luck and happy coincidence. That's like, getting your doctoral degree by divine dispensation. It doesn't work that way. We have to get serious. So without taking an interest in spiritual life, why should we get even a human body in the next life? There is a next life. Just like this life, we're born in different circumstances, higher and lower, because of our karma from the previous life. And by what we do in this life, we build the road to the next life. Human life is meant for spiritual realization. If we don't use it for that, why should nature give us another human life? Why not a dog? The life of a dog, why not the life of a tree, an insect, a fish? There's so many different forms of life, yes.
If one reincarnates into an animal, can one from an animal go to higher planets or be?
If one takes birth as an animal, can one go to higher planets or the supreme destination?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can an animal achieve that?
Only rarely. By exceptional mercy, an animal may be immediately promoted. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Krishna himself, was chewing on some coconut and threw it to a dog. The dog had been hanging around with the devotees. And the next day, nobody saw the dog. And it's understood that the dog had gone back to Godhead. The dog had attained liberation and left the material world.
What happened to the material body?
Let's let the A train pass and then I'll...
He disappeared, but what happened to his material body? The dog's
She asked what happened to his material body, the dog's body.
The body was gone. Dog dies. This is the body. The body was left aside. The dog died, and went back to the spiritual world. So it can happen, but that's very rare. Usually, a dog comes back again as a dog, or maybe one species up. Maybe comes back as a better dog. It's so gradual, there's so many species of life. Gradually, 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 from the lower species, we go up to the higher species. Because the lower species, they don't do anything for spiritual realization. It's not what they're meant for. If we put up posters, attention dogs, we're holding a class in Bhagavad Gita, 305 Skirmahorn, please come. Can't even read it. So the project of spiritual realization is reserved for the human beings. And the lower animals, they're just interested in eating and sleeping, in mating, in defending themselves. So, but they never do anything wrong. A dog never steals oranges. Not really.
I question that.
Well, at least a cow never steals oranges.
But I
Dogs maybe, but generally, my point is that in the lower species, they act like what they're supposed to be. If he's a dog, he barks. If he's a bird, he sings. If he's a fish, he swims. But if we're human beings, we can act like dogs. We can act like sharks. Lawyers. So, because of that, the dogs never go lower. They don't sink to lower species, or any species. They don't sink down. They automatically come up, but slowly, 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 slowly.
Is it really stealing if you're taking back something that was stolen from you? So
You heard,
That
right?
really
You have
is-
better ears. I'm half deaf, so I need some help.
She's
Yes.
asking if it's really stealing if you're taking back something that was stolen from you.
If we're taking back something stolen from, well, now we're getting into sort of complicated territory. My point is that the dog will take a bone. The dog will take dog food. The dog doesn't say, please, some caviar if you please. The dog, he always acts like a dog. But a human being is not expected to act like a dog, but the human being can do that. It can live like a human being, or it can live like an animal. If he lives like an animal, he can become an animal in the next life. He will become. And if he lives a godly life, he can be promoted. And if he lives a spiritual life, he can go back to the spiritual world. Something else? Yeah?
What is the important? What's the importance of having a spiritual teacher, and why can't we? Is the formal having that formal initiation and formal formal connection with the teacher compared to just having somebody that you look up to and just admire and try to seek guidance from?
What's the importance of a spiritual master, and why the formal ceremony? Do we need a formal ceremony rather than just having a teacher someone that we look up to? We need a spiritual master because we're in ignorance. Sorry to say, but that's where we are. If we were all enlightened, we wouldn't need a spiritual master. If I already knew everything about physics, I wouldn't need to go to the university and study physics. I study because I don't know it. I go to school because What's the difference between a P and a Q? I don't know. Or what do these letters do? Putting them together. In the beginning, I'm totally ignorant. I can't read a, C-spot run. Why do I need a teacher? Why don't I just do it on my own? It's not going to be easy. If you go to the school, you learn from the teacher, and you get it. Now I can read. Now I can understand books, appreciate them. I can read the toothpaste label. Without the help of the teacher, I'll come to you. Without the help of the teacher, I'm not going to get it. If I'm in ignorance, I need someone to give me knowledge. Why do you need Google Maps? Right? Because you don't know how to get there. You need guidance. We all need guidance. Otherwise, we can drive around New York City, and hope we get there. Go by gut feeling, intuition. Ask a few people on the way, what do you think? We used to do that in India. We had a party that was walking. Sometimes we'd ask this person, that person. Every answer would be different. But when we have a trusted guide, then we can get out of ignorance and know where to go, know what to do, how to get there. So that necessity is there. And because this is the purpose of human life, as human beings, we need that guidance. And the ceremony means commitment. I can sort of look around and see who I admire and read a book here, read a book there, attend a lecture, attend a different lecture, and sort of roll my own. But that doesn't really work. A little bit here. That's not how someone learns physics, how someone learns medicine, how someone learns anything. We commit ourselves. We place ourselves under the guidance of the teacher. We enroll for the classes. We attend. We take the tests. And we get the education. We don't say, well, why can't I just, it doesn't work that way. And the ceremony is ultimately, it's not the ceremony that makes everything possible. Ceremony could be, and sometimes is, just skipped for one reason or another. Srila Prabhupada initiated a devotee in Moscow during the Soviet times. They didn't hold a fire sacrifice. They didn't perform the usual rituals. Prabhupada just chanted on his beads and gave him a spiritual name, and that was the initiation. Because the circumstances were not favorable for doing anything more. But the essence of the initiation was there. What is that? Commitment on both sides. The spiritual master commits himself to teaching the disciple, to helping the disciple achieve freedom from birth and death. And the disciple, the student, commits himself to hearing from the spiritual master, taking instruction from the spiritual master, serving the spiritual master. In practically all the wisdom traditions, it's not just that you ask questions and say thanks a lot, I needed that, but we render service. We render service. Even in the ordinary education, we were sometimes advised, bring an apple for your teacher. They still sometimes bring apples for teachers. Done, finished. But when we were kids, we would sometimes bring an apple for the teacher. How many apples does a teacher need? Do they need any? But it signifies that we have a debt to the teacher. The teacher has done something for us. And so we should reciprocate, we should appreciate. So the disciple gives service to the spiritual master. And in reciprocation, the spiritual master gives blessings and teachings to the disciple. And the ceremony just signifies that commitment. And you can hang around the university, maybe you audit a few classes, but that's not the same as paying your tuition, enrolling. It's only if you do that you get the degree. Is that okay? Yes.
Yeah, for your spiritual master Prabhupada, can you tell us what are the most important things you learned from him?
What we learned from him?
What you learned from
What
him?
I learned from Srila Prabhupada? Well, I learned that I'm not this body, first of all. That there's a difference between the body and the self. Most of us are thinking in the bodily concept of life. I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm white, I'm black, I'm young, I'm old, I'm thin, I'm fat, I'm Jones, I'm Smith. We identify with this body. I learned from Srila Prabhupada that I wasn't that. I learned that the truth is not something just impersonal and formless, that everything comes from a light or a spark. But if we're intelligent, then the Supreme must be intelligent. If we're parts of the Supreme and we're persons, then the Supreme must be a person. So we learned that Krishna is that Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead. I say we because I didn't get a special instruction, that for you, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and for you, somebody else. Truth is the truth. It's not custom made. We have one truth for you. That back in the 1960s, there was some method, and you'd pay a few dollars and you get a mantra. And the mantra was, especially tailored for you. Especially tailored for you, it was just tuned to you. And it was a secret mantra. You weren't to disclose what your mantra was. But over time, people disclosed their mantras, and they found out that, hey, I got that mantra too. Hey, I got that mantra too. And then the actual, it came out that, there was like a chart, and it would teach you which of 5 mantras to give people. But it was all hush-hush, very secret. No, we have one mantra for everybody. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I learned that.
How much did it cost?
It didn't cost me anything. Yes.
Can you share a great memory you had with your teacher, please?
A great memory we had with our teacher.
That's not in the books or something.
Something not in the book, something new.
That's personal to you.
I'll give you just a little memory. This is not the earth-shattering, but it's sweet. Long before we had this temple, we had a temple in Brooklyn on Henry Street, which is about 15-minute walk away. And Srila Prabhupada sometimes came there, and it was his custom every day to go for a morning walk. Around 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, like that, 6 o'clock in the morning, he would go for a walk. Maybe almost an hour. And, it was not so nice just to walk in the streets of Brooklyn. So he would go to some place, wherever he was in the world. He would go to the seashore, go to a park, go to a nearby place that was nice to walk in. And so here, I remember he went to the East River Park. So it was a bit of a drive. You know, you'd have to go drive, 15 minutes, 10 minutes to get to the park, and then later drive back after his walk. So he was driving back one day, and I happened to be with him in the car, and we came to the corner where the temple was located, Henry Street and Kane, and on the corner was a post box. You know, those post boxes that you find on the street. These days, I guess they're more rare because people don't use mail as much. But still, maybe they're sometimes seen, and then they were common. There would be a big box, and you'd pull the lever, and you drop your letters in the box. Now it's more FedEx or whatever, but postal service. So as we drove up, there was a little boy and his father next to the post box. And the father lifted the boy, and the boy pulled back the cover of the post box, the flap, and dropped some letters in the box. And this, how long does it take to do that? Maybe half a minute. But Prabhupada was watching intently with wide eyes. And he was absorbed in watching this scene. And when Prabhupada was absorbed in something, he'd really be absorbed. So he was absorbed in watching this scene of this boy mailing the letter. And I was thinking, well, maybe Prabhupada's remembering something from his childhood. Or, what was it? Because his eyes were wide, and he was just watching with such absorption. So then Prabhupada spoke, and Prabhupada said, the little boy, on his own, he cannot do. He can't do it. But the affectionate father, when he helps, then it is possible. So that's our position. On our own, answering your question, on our own, we cannot do. We can't achieve spiritual realization on our own, any more than the little boy could jump up and put the letters in the box. But when the affectionate father helps, then it's possible. Yes.
Let's suppose a scenario to seek out the help from a spiritual master to guide us towards our liberation of the cycle of birth and death. But sometimes the master himself haven't reached the liberation of the birth and death of the cycle, and he's still working on his progress. But we should surrender to his mastership, because he would be further ahead on the spiritual path.
If we meet a master, or someone supposed to be a master, and he hasn't yet achieved... Spiritual master, yes. And he hasn't yet achieved liberation from birth and death. Should we surrender to him because he's further along on the path? Very good. First thing, we should try to find the most expert person. Not a person who's just has an acquaintance with the subject matter, or who's just getting started, but somebody who really knows the science. Jai Krishna Tattvaveta She Guru Hoy. One who knows the science of Krishna, that person can become a guru. And yes, even though the person, of course we don't know, has he attained liberation, has he not attained liberation, by our subjective judgment.
And the fact that he's incarnated
Everyone, yes,
tells
us that he's still here.
he's still here.
So we may look for a person who's, of course Krishna was here too, and he was liberated eternally. So that may be there. But it's not that the spiritual master is a person who's miraculously appears in this world without birth by some mystic process. The qualification is that the spiritual master must have heard from his spiritual master and be expert in the science of Krishna. And the spiritual master must be fully engaged in the service of Krishna. Then that person has authority from Krishna. Actually, it's Krishna who gives us liberation, Krishna who brings us back to Godhead, Krishna who instructs us. It's all Krishna doing this. But he acts through his agents. He acts through his agents. If you want to buy the latest version of the Apple operating system, you don't go to the head of Apple Corp and say, please, this is what I need and here's my payment. You go to the representative. Down the street we have an Apple store, so you can go there, and there, it'll say even in the window, authorized Apple retailer or outlet, whatever. Because that's sufficient. You don't need the CEO to be there. You need someone who has authority. Yes, you can have confidence that when you purchase here, you're getting the genuine thing. Yes?
Yeah, then the conclusion is that the master itself does not need to have achieved his own liberation, enough that he is way ahead on the path and bringing the truth.
Yes, we can't judge. Has he attained liberation? Has he not? But can he deliver the science of Krishna coming down through the parampara, the succession of teachers? Just like it comes down the way a mango comes down from the tree. In India, in the mango season, they don't just shake the tree and have the mangoes go boom, 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 splat, splat, splat. But someone goes to the top of the tree, hands it to the next person in the tree, another person goes into the tree and it's handed down further. Then you get it on the ground, all ripe and whole and sweet. That's how you get a mango. Yes?
I think everything is aligned and totally understand. And I think the reality is it's fall back into the blindness of people make them impossible sometimes to discern who is the one
Yeah.
who is bringing the truth, and therefore they can fall into a fake masters.
Yeah,
And that
definitely.
is really what's big problem.
Definitely. You've, hit upon a huge problem. Anyone with a big beard and bright eyes can claim to be a guru. Even if he doesn't have a big beard, he can still claim to be a guru. And the world is full of them. And the world is full of, I'm your guru, or he has a following, and the following says, we've got the guru has come, surrender to the guru, 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 guru. And Is this person qualified? No. So often. How do we see he's not qualified? First thing, what is he teaching? Very important. How do we tell who's a bona fide guru and who's bogus, who's a cheater? So the Sanskrit words are Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. The first qualification is that if you look at what he says, it'll be the same as what Krishna says. Krishna says, surrender to me. The Guru doesn't say surrender to something within Krishna, something beyond Krishna, something next to Krishna, something... No, surrender to Krishna. Because that's what Krishna says. That's what the Bhagavad Gita says. So it's a check for you. You know, like a physics teacher. If the physics teacher is teaching something that's like, what do they call it? Pseudoscience. It's not what the books say. It's like, well, we've got a guy out there who's like woo-woo. Then you're going to say, wait, that's not what I was looking for. I want to learn physics. So the first qualification, is he saying the same thing as the authentic literature? And here's a trap for you. There's lots of them who say, you know, you don't need books. This is all spiritual. You don't need books. Books are a trap.
Everyone get my book here about how you don't need books.
You know, so they'll say, no, you don't need books. It's a mystical process. It's by the grace of the Guru, you know, whatever it is. Because if you read the books, you'll find out, wait, this guy's a charlatan. He's teaching something of his own manufacture. He's not giving the authentic stuff. So that's a check for you. Is the teacher saying the same thing as the authentic literature? Is he saying the same thing that Krishna says? If not, head out in a different direction. So that's the first qualification. And the next qualification is Brahmanishta. He has to have full faith in the process. So when you read the books, I'm sure you know, you see that the process involves discipline. It involves following some moral standards. It involves saintly behavior. It involves acting in devotion, in bhakti. So when we see that the teacher's, you know, always surrounded by young women, and he's, you know, doing all sorts of, what would you say, sensuous things.
Flirtations.
Excuse me?
Flirtations.
Flirtations.
Yeah, flirting or more than flirting. And he's got, you know, he's got cars, he's got houses, he's got, you know, he's got the life of a king, complete with harem. And he's your guru. No way. There was such a person some years ago from Pune, and he was going on like that, you know, that essentially teaching his sannyasis, as they were called, that sex was the way to liberation. And he was the guru in the subject, so he, you know, would teach by example. You know, that's cheating. You don't find in any of the authentic literature that this is the way to perfection. This is the way to degradation. So, but when we see that the Guru is always engaged in the service of Krishna, he's always chanting Hare Krishna, he's always speaking from books like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, then we can say, yes, Prabhupada summarized it, that you have to find the person who's addicted to Krishna. And find the person who's addicted to Krishna. Otherwise, definitely, you really hit it. We'll be cheated. We'll surrender to some person who turns out to be a fraud. There was a film made by an advertising guy, a kind of junior advertising guy from India, and he wanted to, show something. So he as a almost an experiment, he became a guru. He got himself, a trident, like the certain sannyasis, and he grew the beard, and he spoke in the language of India, and he did a whole thing. Oh, and he had a group of people who became his acolytes and thought, you watched the movie, right?
It's amazing.
Amazing, isn't it? They were totally sold.
Yeah. In Texas took place.
In Texas, yeah. Just as a kind of experiment, that's what he did. And then at the end he came out, all clean shaven and talking like an ordinary American, and
Confessed.
yeah, he confessed.
To the followers.
He confessed that this,
Some ladies stood up and got out.
yeah, they were bitter. They were bitter. We helped him make his movie, that's all. So, and he had some platitudes, it's all within you, don't look for a guru, nonsense. So we have to...
He had like the army mantras, like be all you can be or something.
Yeah, be all you can be, and it's all within you, and my goodness. So we have to find the person who's following the authentic path by his teachings. He's heard it through the succession of teachers. It's confirmed by the literature, and he's doing it. He doesn't just talk, but he leads a saintly life of devotional service to Krishna. Then we can have confidence. There was a hand that, yes, your hand.
Hi.
Hare Krishna.
I'm curious what might be the aspirations, the motives or purposes of somebody who has reached liberation and has been born into the spiritual world. What might their life be like?
Why do they go, or why do they come back?
So, being transcending into the spiritual world, what might the motivations of somebody who has?
Why would one want to transcend the material
Once
world?
you get there, what may the purposes be of that individual?
What would you do there?
Yeah, what would you do there?
Why would we want to go to the spiritual world? And if we go there, what are we going to do? Is to hang out in the spiritual world? You see these pictures of angels, playing harps and stuff. Oh my goodness, do I have to do that for eternity? Sit in the clouds and play harp and wear a toga all day? How bad does it get? But we get information from Srimad Bhagavatam that the Supreme Person, Krishna, who is the reservoir of all knowledge, all pleasure, and who's eternal, lives in the spiritual world, and that we can live with him. And when we live with him, we can participate in his activities. Generally, it's a mystery, what does God do in this, in the spiritual world? Even if we, often we don't think that there is a personal God, it's just a force. And if we think, yes, there's God, then what does he do? Oh, he lives in heaven, but what does he do there? There's generally just a vacuum of information that we just don't know. We don't even ask. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's full discussion about what Krishna does in the spiritual world. And we have a book, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where you can read about Krishna's activities. They're wonderful activities. Very unconventional. They're not what you'd expect. They're not, sitting on a throne all day giving orders for who'll be damned and who'll be, receive beatitude. He has wonderful transcendental activities resembling those of a person of this world, but completely transcendental. So I would encourage you take a look at some of these books, and you'll get that picture, and then you'll have an idea. Well, this sounds like a place worth going to. It's not the kind of place where you'd say, I have to do this forever. It's always fresh and new, always transcendentally better at every moment. In the material world, it's up and down, and quite often down and further down, and sometimes up. But in the spiritual world, it's eternally fresh, eternally new, eternally enlivening, because that's our healthy condition. You know, a person's in hospital, and he can't eat properly, can't sleep properly, can't walk properly, can't perform his activities. And then when you tell him that he can be healthy, and he can walk, and he can eat, and no, I don't want to walk, I don't want to eat. Because his experience is that it's painful. Eating is painful, walking is painful. But healthy life means not just to be free from disease, but to be in our healthy condition. And when we're healthy, then eating is a pleasure, walking is a pleasure. So when one becomes Krishna conscious, there's a life of transcendental pleasure in one's eternal identity. Is that okay? Very good question. Thank you. I sense that our time has come. Time has come. So there'll be time for more questions. I can hang out a little longer, right? After the program.
You seem to have a question.
No, the time is.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've reached.
Maybe we can finish with the official part, and then whoever is interested can come close to Maharaj and ask more questions.
Yeah, we'll do it that way.
Also, we have these two books again. So if someone is interested, you can get them, and Maharaj can sign them for you.